Allen Company, 47 years young and a proud sponsor, wishes OOIDA all the best as you celebrate 50 years.
OOIDA, representing America's truckers since 1973, presents Landline Now with your host, Scott Thompson.
A kick in the teeth. That's how OOIDA is describing a House committee hearing next week on autonomous trucks. And adding insult to injury, it comes during Truck Driver Appreciation Week. We'll get into that with Jay Grimes of OOIDA's Washington, D.C. office, along with other regulatory issues that are on the association's radar. And speaking of Truck Driver Appreciation Week, C.H. Robinson will be touring the country next week, giving thanks where it can to those who keep America moving and collecting money for a good cause along the way. We get the scoop from Cody Griggs, Director of Product Management for C.H. Robinson. And then finally, a host of new rules and laws related to trucking are now in effect in Texas. Keith Goebel of Landline Magazine runs down the list, which includes efforts to combat fraudulent CDLs, heavier trucks, variable speed limits, and more. So, lots to get to. But first, the news with Ashley Blackford.
Thanks, Scott. A hearing is scheduled next week on the future of automated commercial motor vehicles. The focus will be on the impacts AV trucks have on society, the supply chain, and the U.S. economic leadership. The Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association said mega carriers can hardly wait to replace millions of American truck driving jobs with autonomous trucks in order to save a buck. OOIDA President Todd Spencer added that the fact that the House Transportation and Infrastructure Committee would hold a hearing to highlight autonomous trucks in the middle of National Truck Driver Appreciation Week is a kick in the teeth to the hardworking men and women behind the wheel who keep America's supply chain running every day. The hearing is scheduled for Wednesday, September 13th. The new emission standards put forth by the Environmental Protection Agency are getting some attention in mainstream media. Fox News Digital recently published an interview with Mike Kuwarski, who is the vice president and co-owner of JKC Trucking.
Truckers are nonstop being forced, overregulated. The EPA is always pushing more and more regulations on us, and it's hard to do our job now. We're kind of sick of it. The administration, the EPA, kind of jamming it down the truckers' throats. I mean, the example: California has decided that half of its trucks have to be electrified by 2035. These regulations are not practical, for five reasons. Number one, costs. Two, infrastructure. We're not ready for the infrastructure. Three, the testing and data. They're just doing the testing data on these trucks right now. I really haven't even drove an electric truck or seen one in person. The driving range is not even close to what we have right now, especially for long-distance trucking.
OOIDA President Todd Spencer was quoted in the article saying that the EPA's regulations are part of its regulatory blitz on small business truckers. He said professional drivers are skeptical of electric vehicle costs, mileage range, battery weight and safety, charging time, and availability. A 6-year contract has been ratified between the International Longshore and Warehouse Union and the Pacific Maritime Association, representing the shipping industry. Recently, President Biden thanked both sides for coming to an agreement.
This landmark contract covers 29 ports, stretching from San Diego, California to Bellingham, Washington, that play a major role in our nation's economy. More comes through those ports than any other means of getting into the United States of America. It's gigantic economic impact. With this contract, dock workers at those 29 Pacific ports will get a pay benefit and working conditions that I believe they deserve and apparently have agreed upon. That includes a guaranteed 32% pay increase over a 6-year period. It also includes a one-time bonus for the dock workers' exceptional efforts during the pandemic.
According to the Pacific Maritime Association, the contract became retroactive on July 1st of 2022 and will expire on July 1st of 2028. Accelera by Cummins, Daimler Trucks, and PACCAR are coming together to manufacture battery cells for electric commercial vehicles and industrial applications. According to a press release, the total investment is expected to be in the range of $2 to $3 billion for the 21 gigawatt-hour factory. The three companies will each own 30% of and jointly control the venture, which will initially focus on the lithium iron phosphate battery technology family for commercial battery electric trucks. EVE Energy will serve as the technology partner in the joint venture with 10% ownership and will contribute battery cell design and manufacturing know-how. Canada's Minister of Transport issued a statement this week saying it's time to reflect on the value that truckers and the trucking industry bring to the country. This week is National Trucking Week in Canada. In a press release, Minister Pablo Rodriguez said that a huge portion of the economy literally runs on wheels, but the value of trucking is more than just economic. The food in the store, medicine in the pharmacy, and goods on the shelves are thanks to the work of truckers, and Canadians can count on them to deliver. He said this week, more than ever, Canada is grateful for the hard work of truckers. If you'll be traveling the Veterans International Bridge in Brownsville, Texas on Monday, be sure to plan for a closure. U.S. Customs and Border Protection announced it will temporarily halt all vehicle and commercial bus traffic at the bridge at 6:45 a.m. on September 11th. A ceremony will be held to honor 9/11 victims on the day's 22nd anniversary. Traffic across the bridge is expected to resume at 8 a.m. $425 million has been awarded to the New Jersey Department of Transportation. This week, Governor Phil Murphy announced the funding for transportation projects as part of the federal August redistribution process. Each year, August redistribution provides an opportunity for the Federal Highway Administration to increase spending authority to state DOTs based on the availability of unused funds. This is the highest amount New Jersey has ever received and the fourth highest award nationwide, behind only California, Pennsylvania, and Texas. $106.5 million of the funding will go toward replacing 6 bridges. These include bridges in Little Falls, Reddington, High Bridge, Bayonne, as well as 2 in Waterford. The University of Nebraska's Lincoln Mid-America Transportation Center will remain the transportation research and workforce development hub thanks to a 5-year, $15 million grant. This grant is administered by the U.S. Department of Transportation through its University Transportation Centers program, which advances transportation research and technology and develops the next generation of transportation professionals. The center will receive $3 million per year for the next 5 years to improve transportation safety and equity. And finally, a koala bear is on the hook for nearly $4,000 after it was caught eating plants from an Australian nursery. UPI reports that in total, $3,800 worth of plants have gone missing. Staff first noticed a few months ago, and they initially suspected some escaped goats or local possums were to blame. The mystery was finally solved when workers arrived to find the koala had overeaten and was too tired to head back to its tree. The World Wildlife Fund posted about the incident and said, all fun aside, that this uncommon behavior shows food sources are scarce as koalas are not regular guests at the nursery. That's Landline Now News for today. I'm Ashley Blackford.
Thanks, Ashley. A reminder, if a carrier, shipper, receiver, or broker coerces you to violate any regulations, you don't have to sit and take it. In fact, you're encouraged to file a complaint with the National Consumer Complaint Database. You've got 2 ways to do that, either by calling 1-888-DOT-SAFT or by going online and doing it there. If you'd like to join OOIDA, you can do it at a discount. Just call the membership department during business hours at 816-229-5791. You can join the association or renew your membership for 2 years for $50 right now. That's a $40 discount. Coming up, we'll look ahead to that hearing next week that OOIDA says is really an insult to hardworking truck drivers across the nation. Lots to unpack there. That's coming up right after the break. Stick around.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want more content, go to landline.media to get updated news, information, and archived editions of our show. Once again, that's landline.media.
Firestone tires are for more of everything. more miles for every tire dollar, and more confidence in your fleet. At Firestone, we help fleets save with dependable value. Find your local Firestone dealer today at firestonetire.com/dealer.
Ready to make more money? Use a better load board. For a limited time, get 50% off Truckstop Load Board Pro. Just go to truckstop.com/go and enter promo code READY2023 when you purchase Load Board Pro.
Welcome back to Landline Now, where it's time to check in on the regulatory side of things from Washington, D.C. Jay Grimes, OOIDA Director of Federal Affairs, joins us in Studio A with all the latest. Jay, how you doing?
Doing well. Great to be back.
Good to see you, as always. So last week when we talked, right around this time, we got into the automatic emergency braking proposal that's being floated by NHTSA and FMCSA. The comment period at that point was open. It is now closed. OOIDA did file its comments this week, and the crux of the argument, pretty clear, Jay, that your concerns are primarily about safety here. Talk just a bit about, what you were trying to, express in these comments.
Yeah, there were a few shortcomings that we think NHTSA and FMCSA need to address before they issue any final rulemaking related to this congressional mandate to kind of undergo through this process. But as proposed, we think the proposal does not sufficiently address false activations, does not properly consult with professional truck drivers, and does not complete the ongoing research programs that the agency are working on right now related to AEB. The testing protocols that they lay out do not really provide enough assurances that a mandate would ensure that AEB systems on new trucks would operate safely, would eliminate this repeated false activation problems. The testing conditions don't simulate real-world driving conditions in many ways. So I think NHTSA is going to be primarily responsible for the equipment side of things and the testing side. And we kind of think they need to go back to the drawing table on this one, really making sure that when any mandate goes into effect, which could be 3 to 4 years down the line, that the new trucks with the AEB equipment are going to operate safely, aren't going to take control out of a driver's hands and really put them in an unsafe scenario. And kind of looking at, I think it was 1,100 comments filed. A lot of these comments are from drivers with AEB experiences that describe some really scary situations where they've been on the road and the AEB just acts up, locks up, and sometimes creates devastating accidents. And certainly we don't want to see that happen. Have a lot of concerns that, the agencies are moving a little too fast and a little not really going through the thorough testing that then needs to be done for this technology.
Yeah, that's the thing with these issues in particular is that they may, and we've talked about this before, but they may sound good on paper, but when you look at the real world consequences of, in this case, an actual mandate of this technology, there are people who have gone through it and have experienced it and have expressed that it puts them in a dangerous situation for themselves and for other people on the road. There were a lot of great comments in those 1,100 that were posted there, talking about their real world experiences and how they basically lost control in a situation where they needed control to prevent an accident. And you hope. And I guess apparently, NHTSA and FMCSA do read these. They have to, actually. You do hope they take that into account when they're figuring out their next steps. I guess that's a question, too, is what are the next steps, right? The comment period is over now. Historically, when we look at timelines with, this type of thing and where we are right now, what's the next step? What are we going to expect next?
By the book, the agencies are going to have to go through review every comment that was submitted. So that's going to take some time. I think it would be at least 6 to 12 months before we see the next potential rulemaking phase. But kind of as we mentioned in our comments, NHTSA kind of, I think, skirted around some of the recommendations from Congress that they were supposed to go through before putting out this proposal. The main one was to consult with representatives of professional drivers with AEB experience. They did not do that before putting out this proposal. And kind of looking through what they propose, they say, okay, the public comment period is going to provide us with that feedback. And they're going to get some insight to that from the folks that submitted comments. But we really think they need to do a better job of either holding listening sessions, going out and meeting with industry stakeholders such as OOIDA and other groups to really get that full picture of the drivers who have had AEB experience, the drivers who don't have AEB experience, but 4 to 5 years from now might have to buy a truck that's going to come equipped with AEB, hear from them on what they want to see, how the equipment should work, what are the cost considerations going to be. So you're going to have this, mandatory review process. But in the meantime, we also think NHTSA and FMCSA need to meet with the men and women who make their living behind the wheel, meet with these industry stakeholder groups, and really have detailed, comprehensive conversations on what has to be included in a final rule, what testing processes can produce some better results for the final product of the AEB technology. And that's kind of one hand. On the technical side, another interesting thing with this is that you've got one rulemaking for the heavy-duty vehicles, and you've got a separate AEB requirement for light-duty vehicles. And certainly, the technology for the light-duty vehicles has been much more researched, has been implemented a little further down the line from the light-duty manufacturers. We got a long way to go on the heavy-duty side, and it kind of seems like they just kind of transferred a lot of the stuff that's been in place on the light-duty side, and it's going to work just as well for commercial vehicles. I think we have a lot of concerns if that's going to work the way that NHTSA and FMCSA think. So I think they really got to do some more, focused outreach to the driving community, to the trucking industry to get this one right.
Yeah, warranted concerns. And just to add on too, in addition to potentially having those conversations and discussions, Barry Spillman, one of our engineers, pointed out it would be great if these policymakers actually got into the cab of a truck with AEB to see how they function and actually maybe go through some simulated exercises or something like that to really demonstrate what it's like when you are in a truck that has this technology that isn't necessarily reliable, especially at this point in the game. So we'll see if they do that. That would be ideal, I guess. But
yeah, no doubt. Unfortunately, it's kind of all too often the case where the agencies they try and do their best to listen to drivers, and certainly the public comment period is open to anyone that wants to submit feedback. But it can be difficult for drivers who are on the road all the time to pay attention to the Federal Register, to find where they have to submit comments in. So I think it's always helpful, and we've seen this on a couple of examples of different rulemakings, whether it was entry-level driver training, the hours of service reform, when the agency really kind of goes above and beyond to go to the drivers themselves, truck shows, different industry events. I think that always can shape these proposals and rulemakings in a more practical manner. Yeah. And we've kind of missed that step so far, and hopeful that NHTSA and FMCSA can revisit that aspect because it's in the legislation that required this rulemaking.
To be continued there.
Yep.
We'll shift gears now to some administrative shuffling at FMCSA, which has a new assistant administrator and chief safety officer. Before we talk about who that person is, let's get into what the assistant administrator and chief safety officer does at FMCSA.
Yeah, and there's no real specific job requirements. This is going to be a leadership role within FMCSA. If anyone listening out there is familiar with Jack Van Steenberg, who was with the agency for a long time, he held this position prior and retired earlier this year, opening of the vacancy. The key difference here is that, we have the Robin Hutchinson as administrator of FMCSA. We have some other positions in DOT that are political appointees that require Senate confirmation. This position is not one of those. So it's possible, this is kind of the top career position there at FMCSA, where you generally see, like in Jack's case, that they're working with the agency across different presidential administrations and really, build up the institutional knowledge of how the agency works and can kind of help the political appointees, cut through the red tape and try and roll out some effective rulemaking. So, again, the chief safety officer's mission is to promote the agency's safety mission, collaborate with federal, state, and local governments, and provide direction to all commercial motor vehicle safety programs. So, going to have a little bit of technical experience and also working with the leadership staff at FMCSA.
And that person we should mention is Sue Lawless. Real quick, Jay, what do we know about her and where she came from and what she's done?
She's been with FMCSA in different roles for a while now. Most recently, she has served as director of FMCSA's Motor Carrier Driver and Vehicle Standards Division. She first joined FMCSA back in 2001, did spend some time in the private sector where she was a partner in a law firm where she represented motor carriers, drivers, and other transportation businesses. Came back to FMCSA in 2010 and served in different roles as assistant chief counsel and other policy director position. So she's got quite a bit of experience within trucking and certainly some whole experience within FMCSA, knows how the agency works. So seems qualified to be appointed from the position, and we certainly look forward to continue working with her in her new role.
We've got a couple minutes, Jay. I'm going to hand you the ball and let you run on this one. So there's an autonomous truck hearing in the T&I committee next week during Truck Driver Appreciation Week. I know the association have a few bones to pick with the way this is going down. I'll let you take the ball and run. Yeah,
certainly this is a punch in the teeth to be being held during National Truck Driver Appreciation Week. The subcommittee on the House Highways and Transit T&I committee is going to be holding a hearing next Wednesday entitled The Future of Automated Commercial Motor Vehicles, Its Impacts on Society, Supply Chain, and the U.S. Economic Leadership. Really, they're going to be focusing on automated trucks, and to have this hearing in the middle of a week that lawmakers and kind of everybody nationally is reminded of all the contributions that the men and women making their living behind the wheel make, to kind of focus on what's the best way to kind of take them out of the industry and replace them with self-driving trucks. It doesn't make much sense to us. We're going to be calling out the committee. We've heard there's not going to be any driver representation as part of the witness list. So, really a shame on the committee and some of the other folks that are going to be testifying next week. Interesting timing is all I can say. We're going to be certainly submitting, our perspectives on this hearing to the committee members to make sure that their voice is heard. But we don't think they should be holding this hearing at all. Kind of given the nature, there's a lot more important priorities we think Congress can be dealing with. To have it during Appreciation Week is another matter, and then to not have any drivers at the hearing is just baffling. But we'll kind of see what they say and making sure that the committee is reminded of how drivers feel about autonomous technology.
I'm sure we'll be talking about this next week. Jay, appreciate it as always.
All right, we'll see you next time.
Our thanks to Jay Grimes of OOIDA's Washington, D.C. office. To get involved in the fights they're fighting, check out fightingfortruckers.com. With that, a break. Landline Now is back in just a moment.
Weigh your truck on a CAT scale. When you weigh on a CAT scale, you get a no excuses guarantee. You can now save time weighing by using your smartphone. Find out more at weightmytruck.com.
Since you started, what you've loved about trucking is the freedom. Heading out on your favorite route, a good driving song, and thinking about truck insurance. Well, maybe not that last one. That's why we're here. At OOIDA, we have a full range of truck insurance products, expert advice, and great customer service, helping you get the right coverage for your operation. Go to OOIDA.com because your job is to drive. Our job is to help with everything else.
Landline Now, welcome back. I'm Jamie Jones. Truck Driver Appreciation Week is right around the corner. And with us today on the show, we have Cody Griggs, the Director of Product Management with C.H. Robinson, that's going to talk about what they're doing. And in the studio with me, I have Louis Pugh, the Executive Vice President of OOIDA, and Narita Taylor, the Director of OOIDA's PR. Thanks for joining me, everybody.
Hey, it's great to be here.
As always.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
All right. So Truck Driver Appreciation Week is coming up. So what is C.H. Robinson doing in particular for that week, Cody?
It's my favorite week of the year every year. This and the Mid-America Truck Show. But, we have a whole list of events that we're kicking off. So first off, we are doing a kind of a tour, Miles of Gratitude tour. So you mentioned we've got, our theme this year is Miles of Gratitude. We know that truck drivers spend so much time on the road and away from their families. And we just want to lean into how thankful we are for the sacrifices that they make. So what we're doing is kicking off on Monday, that first day of Truck Driver Appreciation Week. We have a truck that we've wrapped with our hashtag that will be driven by one of our Carrier of the Year award winners, Timmons Transportation. And we are taking that truck on a road trip. And so we're starting at our corporate headquarters, going down to Chicago, on down to Nashville, Atlanta, back up to Kansas City, and then finishing out on Saturday in Texas, stopping at 8 different TA Petro stations across the country to just do a few little pop-up events, show carriers how much we appreciate them. We're going to be giving away gift cards and just kind of saying thank you just by being there in person and showing how much we appreciate them. So that's a big one. Also, during that week, we are doing a free digital cash advance giveaway. So we know how important it is, especially now that carriers have access to cash when they're on the road. And so we're giving away cash advances for this full week for one per carrier, so they can go ahead and request up to 60% of their load payment in advance of delivery. And then the big one, really, so in addition to the Miles of Gratitude tour, we're also running a social media campaign. So that's our hashtag, Miles of Gratitude. And for every post on social media, we are giving $10 to the St. Christopher's Truckers Relief Fund. And then we're also giving $10 for every mile that our truck drives. It's about 2,500 miles for that full trip, up to $50,000 to the St. Christopher's Truckers Relief Fund, because they're a very valuable partner of ours. Narita and I actually sit on their board together. And so we wanted to make sure that money gets into the hands of drivers who need it. So those are our big 3 kind of things that we're super excited about for this year.
Well, I know around here at OOIDA, and I'm sure the feeling is mutual at C.H. Robinson, we say we value truck drivers every day of the year. They are our heroes. They are the ones who keep this country moving. So, but why do we feel like Truck Driver Appreciation Week itself is so important?
Yeah, I think, and I completely agree with you, Jamie, it is important for us to think about and be considerate of in all of the business that we do and all of the products that we purchase as consumers, like how important trucking is to making that happen. But, I really appreciate this week of every year because it's just such a nice pause and reflect and an opportunity for us to gather all of the people who work at C.H. Robinson, all of our customer partners, to really say all of the thank yous that we probably haven't said throughout the year and just really do that with intention to show our trucking partners how much we appreciate them. And so it's just, for me, it's a really nice pause and reflect and just be very intentional about showing our gratitude.
Yeah, let's dive into that just a little bit deeper. Can you talk about a time when you've seen truck drivers really make that difference in people's lives?
Yeah, for me, when I think about the biggest impact that I've seen trucking have, it comes at the foot of some of the worst natural disasters that this country experiences, right? So when you think about the harm's way that those truck drivers put themselves in to make sure that people had plywood and generators and water and just basic necessities, they were staging hundreds of miles away, just waiting on the call that the National Guard was going to let them through. And you just think about, you put that up there with firefighters in the military and police, of first responders, of people who are willing to put themselves in harm's way to make sure that other people are taken care of and are well. And it's such a giving moment that they have to be able to do that, and it's so selfless. And I think it is so underappreciated that it's so nice to be able to have this nationally recognized week where the entire country, whether you're in supply chain or not, can sit back. I mean, I've had conversations with my family leading up to this week every year, and they're like, "Mom, why are you doing all of these things?" I'm like, "Guys, do you understand where your water came from, where this food came from, and the role that trucking plays in that?" So, I think the natural disaster piece is where I really think about when I think about trucking and the selfless nature of it.
Another one, and this was probably a first for a lot of us, and Louie, jump in here too. When the pandemic happened and the panic buying, the fact we heard truckers in mainstream media and lawmakers talking about them being heroes. Fast forward 3 years, you don't hear as much of that now. So how does that underscore the importance of bringing this celebration back to the table?
Yeah, that's been completely forgotten. Unfortunately, not only in the general public, but a lot on Capitol Hill. There's still a few people, but it was, I do a lot of advocacy stuff around here, and during COVID, on Capitol Hill and the things that truckers were asking for seem to be heard a lot better than they are now. And, and you're right, before COVID, the only time you ever got much accolation as a trucker was Katrina and stuff like that. I was part of the Katrina deal and hauling stuff down there, and it's a thankless job, and unfortunately, and a lot of times what people don't realize is truckers get the blunt of everybody's crap, because you pick up something somewhere and you deliver it somewhere, and that's your job. But unfortunately, the guy on the other end, he's mad because you brought it or it wasn't there, and you had nothing to do with that stuff. Mm-hmm. And it's like, and then, companies like your business partners at CHR, they need to look at their trucker, the guys who haul their load as an extension of their company. And I always looked at that way when I had my truck, because you are an extension of that company, because they don't remember you at the shipper a lot of times as truck driver XYZ. They remember you as the guy that brought this load for this company. We don't want that deal with them people anymore. If there's a bad thing, or if there's a good thing, we're like, yeah, this guy from this, So your drivers, even owner-operators, are an extension of the core company they're hauling for when they're hauling that load.
So, Cody, that just gives all the more, fuel to the fire to celebrate truck drivers in this upcoming week, right?
Absolutely. It's, like Louie said, it's a thankless job. And so being able to pause and, give away some money, give away some handshakes, it just feels good for us.
Yeah, well, let's talk about some of that money. The Miles of Gratitude Tour. Easy for you to say. All right. You had to name it something hard for me here. All right.
I know. I'm sorry.
Anyway, so let's name off your stops, one of which is OOIDA, but go through them in order for me.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're starting in Minneapolis. So we're starting off in Rogers, Minnesota. So we're starting at our corporate headquarters, and then we're moving up to Rogers, which is a little bit further north, where there's a pretty nice TA Petro stop that we're going to make. So that will be on Monday. And then from Monday, we're going down to Chicago. So we're stopping outside of Chicago. And then from there, we move to Nashville, and then Columbus, Nashville, Atlanta, Columbus, Kansas City, and then down to Texas. And if I got those out of order, it's because I haven't exactly memorized our route yet, but all of the information will be on chrobinson.com. And we also have a live tracking link where you can kind of follow the truck where it's going. And on chrobinson.com, we'll also have some Spotify playlists. So we've started a few playlists where our employees can upload songs that they want to use to show their gratitude to their drivers. And carriers can access those playlists and listen to what the Robinson folks have to say and appreciate.
So, Narita, I'm going to turn to you on the Miles of Gratitude Tour. I got it that time.
Okay.
$10 per mile going to St. Christopher Fund.
I love it. I love it. I love the name. Miles of Gratitude. See, I got it in there too. And then, and yes, St. Christopher's Relief Fund, love that they're being supported with this. Very important organization that OOIDA has been involved with since the beginning that organization was founded, helping long-haul CDL holders when they're out of work, paying bills. Mm-hmm. It's a great organization. Glad that C.H. Robinson is involved, and looking forward to seeing you guys come here to headquarters.
Yeah.
Well, and the fact is, we can jump in. All of our listeners right now, they can be ready with those like and share buttons on social media.
Yeah, that's right.
Share those posts, and we get $10 per post as well.
Yep.
Yeah, that
exactly.
Very generous, up to $50,000. So that will go a long way to helping some very deserving individuals who have fallen on some really tough times. Now, Cody, you've partnered together with other organizations, including OOIDA, because this event is very big for C.H. Robinson. But how did those partnerships come about?
We have been partnering with OOIDA. I'm really excited to see everybody when we stop there at our last stop. In addition to the St. Christopher's Truckers Relief Fund, a lot of those partnerships come about because we find it so valuable to understand the voice of the entire population of our partners. And so, we've definitely partnered with OOIDA from a legislation standpoint. We've partnered with them to understand more about, what are carriers saying? What are some of the needs in the community right now? And then how can C.H. Robinson work to help fulfill some of those needs in the community? We've been rolling out some new programs, and we've talked with you lovely folks at OOIDA about what are some of the reactions that this program is going to get? How can we make sure that owner-operators feel heard and they feel valued as part of our C.H. Robinson community? Because they are so important to our ability to continue to operate, and they're such an important part of our business. So those partnerships are really helpful for us to make sure that we have, a full cross-section of understanding of the community that we work with.
Yeah, it's always good when you have those relationships with other groups to find a way to have mutually beneficial programs and things like that where everybody succeeds.
Absolutely.
Anything that we can do to shine a positive light on our members and on industry and in trucking, I think we always have to do that. I mean, that's the part of the reason, like with C.H. Robinson, I mean, when Jason reached out to me about this in the first place, that's why we got on board right away, because we do have an open dialogue. And, sometimes there's always a little rub between truckers and brokers and stuff like that. But they are trying to do a good thing here and the right thing here. And that's why they reach out to us, and we have lots of conversations with them and stuff. So, I mean, to me, it was a no-brainer.
If you don't have that open dialogue, you won't ever find common ground, right?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Which is something that we all need to remember in today's world.
Absolutely. I mean, 100%. Cody, very quickly, we have about 30 seconds left. Where can we find more information about the Miles of Gratitude Tour? Nailed it.
Absolutely. Yeah, nice job. I didn't realize that one was tough to say, but now that you said it, you're right. So everything about our Miles of Gratitude Tour can be found on our website, chrobinson.com. That main page that you go to, we're going to be kind of putting some of that content out there. It'll redirect you to a website. But just remember, the hashtag is Miles of Gratitude. If you search that on social media, on LinkedIn, you'll be able to see some of those activities. We're going to be posting pictures from the road. And on the website on chrobinson.com, you'll also be able to see those tour stops in case I listed them exactly out of order and kind of where we are in that journey. So we would love to have more OOIDA members, truck drivers stopping by our truck stop, talking with us, get some swag, we'll buy you lunch, just to say thank you and to show our love.
All right. That was Cody Griggs, Director of Product Management with C.H. Robinson, talking about Truck Driver Appreciation Week. Cody, thanks for coming on with us.
Thank you so much for having me, Jamie.
Louie, Narita, thanks for coming into the studio. Appreciate you as well.
You bet. Thanks.
Thanks, and thanks to all you truckers out there.
All right, be sure to stick around. We've got more for you right after this break.
Control your toll costs and eliminate tolling headaches with Prepass Tolls. Prepass Tolls means toll volume discounts. Just one invoice for all tolls and fewer violations. Call 877-878-5970 or go to prepass.com.
Attention all truckers, Dean Michael, the tax doctor here. I want to talk to you about those dreaded tax problems. I know you want to keep on trucking and not even think about them, but let's face it, they're not going away all on their own. You need professional help. I've been helping truckers put their tax problems in the rearview mirror for years. I can help you too. Call me now for a free consultation at 888-557-4020 or go to mytaxhelpmd.com. It's like I always say, keep your eyes on the road, I'll keep mine on the IRS. 888-557-4020.
It's tested and proven. Burn 2.1% less fuel when you balance all wheel ends with Centromatic. Call 800-523-8473 to get the OOIDA discount.
Welcome back. We close things out today by spending a little time in Texas, where several new rules and laws are now in effect that could end up affecting you out on the road. Here with the details, as always, is our resident expert for all things states, Keith Goebel of Landline Magazine. Keith, how you doing?
Scott, doing all right. How you doing?
Doing just fine here. Let's start with this new rule now in effect that takes aim at fraudulent CDLs. And before we get into what this rule does in particular, let's start with the problem it seeks to address. In other words, Keith, why did Texas officials feel that this rule was needed?
It's no surprise that Texas is on the front line of whenever you have someone from Mexico driving in, trucking, driving into the state, whether their destination is the state of Texas or somewhere else in the U.S. I mean, they're one of the states that has a lot of truck traffic coming across, and what they have found, I say not through the years, but there's a good number of fraudulent, whether it's fake, counterfeit, what have you, CDLs. These are documents that, listening to recent discussion on this topic out of the state of Texas, is it has been a challenge to really put in place, I don't want to say enforcement, but punishment for those folks who come across the border without valid documentation that allows them to drive a truck in the U.S. So this particular legislation that got through the State House and has been signed into law is to address, obviously, those concerns and simplify or make easier prosecution of those folks, again, who are driving a truck who should not be driving a truck.
So that's the why. Let's get into the how as to how Texas officials are tackling this issue. What does this rule look like?
Yeah, essentially it's simplifying prosecution of those who are found to have illegal, fictitious documentation. The problem has been that they haven't been able to adequately prosecute those folks. And again, obviously, the focus is on Mexican CDLs. This also applies to Canadian CDLs. Essentially, any government-issued, having the requirement they have a valid work visa, such as a B-1. That would be satisfying the requirement under this new law. But yet, addressing again concern that prosecutors around the state of Texas have indicated that creates a little bit of a barricade, but a difficulty, a challenge in adequately being able to go after those folks again who, whether they be from Mexico or other Latin American countries, they should not be behind the wheel. So again, it's going to allow them to hopefully get these people off the road and potentially, result in going back to the source of the issue.
So that's the why, that's the how. In terms of enforcement, I believe the rule is now in effect, and there's a grace period, I think, going on for a little bit. And then after that, what's this going to look like?
Yeah, rule took effect in Texas. By and large, any new law that has been approved by the legislature and signed by the governor, Those all take effect on September 1st. Yeah, there's instances where a rule will take effect immediately, but yeah, this rule's been in effect since September 1st. What happened as of September 1st is a 90-day grace period kicks in from citations specifically. Now, during that time, for the next 90 days, troopers, law enforcement agencies around the state who can enforce, they're certified to inspect commercial vehicles. Now, I know we've talked even recently about some additional counties in Texas and cities that have been authorized through legislation to enforce truck rules. It's a little bit of a it's almost like putting puzzle pieces together in Texas of what local law enforcement agencies have the authority to inspect trucks and ticket for citations. But anyway, by and large, over the course of the next 90 days, starting on September 1st, yes, troopers and those affected law enforcement agencies that can inspect commercial vehicles, they can issue warnings, and as well as that, they can issue out-of-service violations. So folks are not getting off, I say, scot-free at that point, but for these first 90 days, there are still some deterrents that they're hoping will start making a difference there and improve the safety on Texas roadways and roadways, throughout the U.S.
Let's hit the speed round here, Keith. Moving on to another new rule in Texas, or I guess this one's a law, really, meant to boost road revenue. And much like other states are doing, they're targeting electric and hybrid cars to do it.
Texas is one of the minority of states that has not done anything up to this point on fees for electric and hybrid vehicles. What they are doing is they're adding a $400 registration fee for a new electric vehicle. And then after that, each annual registration is $200 for, again, these affected electric hybrid vehicles. So just essentially trying to jump on board with what a lot of other states have done. The estimation is that they're going to be able to raise in the neighborhood of $300 million over the course of the next 2 years. Now, specifically, these affected electric vehicle owners, these are for vehicles that weigh up to 10,000 pounds, but definitely going to allow them to generate some additional revenue, needed transportation revenue for specifically their highway fund, which, of course, the benefit would be for road and bridge work.
Yeah, I'm not sure if there's how many states are out there that aren't doing this right now, but if there are some, they will eventually get on board with this, I believe. Let's move on here to another law dealing with, this is interesting, the definition of a commercial fleet. What's this one about?
Yeah, essentially, if you're defined as a commercial fleet in Texas, the time it comes to registration renewals, it's a bit simplified. It right now, as it has been in Texas, you have to have at least 25 commercial vehicles to qualify as a commercial fleet. And when you qualify as a commercial fleet, you can have your registration renewals at the same time. If you have fewer commercial vehicles than that, and then you got to monitor registration deadlines. You got to process registration paperwork, and it can be over the course of the year and not just that one time. So trying to simplify things, they put a new rule in place that lowers the number to qualify as a commercial fleet from 25 as it has been. It is now at 12.
Sounds like a common sense rule there. Let's move on to another issue here with about a minute to go, Keith. This one dealing with heavier trucks, mostly in response, it appears at least, to the rise in electric trucks there.
Yeah, again, Texas is one of the minority of states that hadn't taken action to really aid those folks with electric-powered trucks, natural gas-powered trucks. Since 2015, Congress has authorized states to permit up to 82,000 pounds for those affected loads. Texas had not acted until now, so they've done that. And if you have an electric-powered truck, natural gas-powered truck, it can be up to 82,000 pounds.
Man, the speed round is going well. Let's get one more in here. Variable speed limits. Go, Keith.
Yeah, something. The idea is if there is a traffic issue, weather issue, something going on out there, they wanted to establish variable speed limits. So what this does is it authorizes variable speed limits to be set around the state. It has to be within 10 miles per hour of the posted speed. but just more flexibility. The belief is that it'll result in safer roads. Now, there are concerns that it could result in speed traps. But anyway, another new rule that's in place in Texas.
Lots going on in Texas. Keith, you're on top of it. We appreciate you coming by, as always, to fill us in on all things state-related.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You can check out Keith's work at landline.media and in every issue of Landline Magazine. That's our show for today. We thank you for joining us, as always, and thanks for all you do out there to keep America moving. We'll see you again next time.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to like and subscribe. If you want more content, go to landline.media to get updated news, information, and archived editions of our show. Once again, that's landline.media.
I'm a dad.
A son.
A husband.
Wife.
I'm a writer.
Photographer.
I farm.
I'm a veteran.
I love old cars. Fishing.
My kids.
Chrome.
And I am
a professional truck driver.
And together we are OOIDA.
OOIDA was founded by truckers to stand up and speak on behalf of truckers. We've done that by combining the individual voices of our members into a single, powerful voice. Protecting your interests, defending your rights.
Join us.
Make your voice heard. Join OOIDA, the Owner-Operator Independent Drivers Association. Call 1-800-444-5791 or visit OOIDA.com.